Good evening, everyone. It's Don Anderson and Sunny Danforth. Welcome to Captive Audience. It's wonderful Wednesday once again, but it's more wonderful than usual because Thanksgiving is tomorrow, which means we're all going to be about 5 or 10 pounds heavier by this time next week. so,
Yes,
so what
yes,
say you?
we are. I feel like that might have started today. I'll tell you. I don't know. A little taste of this or a little taste of that. I've been in the kitchen all day.
Hey, that the
Having
dangerous
fun
thing
though.
about cooking is you start tasting that stuff along the way, and you eat the dinner before the dinner, right?
Right, right.
It reminds me of being a kid and constantly being screamed at to get out of the kitchen, right? You're constantly trying to sneak in when your mother's not looking and grab a little bit of this, a little bit of that, particularly the dessert tray, right?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, that's I made I can't say my mom and I whipped up two pumpkin pies today, and we're whipping up everything from scratch. It's a lot of fun. It was a good time, good memories today in the kitchen, I have to say, spending time with my mom.
So that's awesome. Yeah, Thanksgiving, has always been a great time of year in my family. My grandmother, every holiday, she would do some particularly Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas. And she was a cook by profession, a chef, if you will. And
Oh
so our
boy.
dinners were insane. And we have a Polaroid one year. I think it's, the beautiful thing about Polaroids, they have the year at the bottom. So
Yes.
it was, November, whatever the date was, 1970, right? So we're talking, what, 54 years ago? And all it is a picture of this massive turkey on the all cooked and dressed up on the dining room table, and that for me, that's Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
You look at
Happy
that picture.
Thanksgiving, Lori. I see she's telling us happy Thanksgiving. And
Happy Thanksgiving.
yeah,
And from that Polaroid, I can still smell it.
no kidding. No kidding. And speaking of Thanksgiving, we actually have so much to be thankful for this Thanksgiving.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I was just going to jump in without stopping and doing that. But we surely have to thank the Almighty, that we're in the position that we're in now. We still have a republic. Our president missed getting killed by a matter of what, really centimeters, not even inches.
Yeah.
Um, and then all the other miracles that have come into play to put us in a position to have the opportunity to fight for freedom. So we have a tremendous amount to be thankful for, in addition to families, health, friends, loved ones, all those good things. And the fact that we can even be here with you all tonight, that's something to be thankful
Yes.
for, right?
Yes. Absolutely. It's we have to not forget to count our blessings because
Absolutely.
there are many. There are many. And it's making me cry actually. It's
Mhm.
making me tear up
Don't do
because
that.
there are many. Just like spending the day with my mom in the kitchen and talking about what we're gonna, yesterday we were talking about what we were gonna do. And in
Mhm.
fact, I have to tell you, last night I go, "Oh crud! I don't have the bread for the dressing, Mom." And so she made cornbread. Well,
Mhm.
because we make a combination cornbread with sourdough stuffing,
Uh-huh.
and I ran to the bakery and got some bread, and then I toasted it
Uh-huh.
all up today. And I go, "Oh, how did I forget that?" So it's
Yeah.
definitely a team effort here at our house,
Mhm. Right.
and we've got family coming over. It's going to be fun. It'll be nice.
No, that's great. Sunday and I were just talking, we're telling the rest of you all. It turns out that both of our moms are 90, and her mom's like 3 days older than my mom. Can you believe that? It's
I
unbelievable.
know it's
And to be fortunate enough to have our mom still with us and still mentally in great shape, physically in pretty decent health for being 90 for yet
yeah.
another Thanksgiving, that is a blessing by itself.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I don't take that for granted because you know. Anyway, I'm enjoying the time. And in my kitchen, I have a picture of my great grandmother who I
Mhm.
knew very, very well, and
Wow.
she raised 9 children,
Wow.
and in Montpelier, Idaho.
Hmm.
And she's, pulled 2 loaves of homemade bread out of the oven, and this is a picture of her with her in her house dress, with these loaves of bread, and this morning I said, "Hey, Grandma, we're here, we're getting busy."
Yeah.
you know
Trying to live up to the standard.
that's right, that's right.
That is so great.
It
Well,
is.
yeah. So with that, I'll segue into the news of the hour, if you will, the news du jour. And I thought what I would start with, this is a little background, because hopefully we're able to give you all more than just news, but if we could sneak in a little history too, and a little geopolitics, then that's always a pretty cool thing, I think, right? So this morning I was thinking about the whole war with Ukraine, and just to set the backstage for that, uh, in the words of Henry Kissinger, he would use this term called realpolitik. For those of you who are old enough to remember Henry Kissinger, it was all about realpolitik. What really happens? What is required to deal with foreign powers? And so, if you think about the great powers in the world, think about Great Britain. Think about the United States when the United States is having its run now. Great Britain had its run in the last century. Spain before that. You think about Japan. You think about ancient Rome. Hannibal crossing the Alps. Uh, all those great powers had one thing in common, and what they had in common was what allowed them to grow to great power status was they had a buffer zone that protected them against other great powers, which meant they weren't always having to go to war, which meant that they could grow their economies, grow their population, grow their technology without being invaded all the time. So the United States, 2 oceans on either side, 2 countries north and south that are friendly. You think about Great Britain, surrounded by water, really difficult to invade. You think about Spain and France, Pyrenees and Alps. Um, all the great powers, even the Incas and Aztecs, you got oceans on one side and weak neighbors on the other side. That's what you need. Russia, you think about Russia. Russia is a country that's constantly been under threat from the powers to its west. Constant invasions from Germany. I mean, Napoleon invaded them, Hitler invaded them. Those countries need buffer states. Since they don't have water, they don't have mountains, they need buffer states. That's just the reality. And they will fight tooth and nail to keep those buffer states. At the end of World War II, one of the reasons why Russia created the Eastern Bloc, not one of the reasons, the reason was to prevent the West from invading Russia. So hence, think about all of those, think about Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, you think about Poland, Lithuania, all of those little countries were in the Eastern Bloc because that prevented, it made it more difficult for the West to invade them. And that was the understanding. That's what NATO was based upon, the Eastern Bloc versus the Western Bloc, and that worked. Russia falls, and we start really taking apart the principles associated with that, what worked so well for 50 years, by inviting these countries to become part of NATO. So one by one, all of these countries, and I can't remember how many there are, but there's a ton of them. Here you go. So in 1999, after the Berlin Wall fell, we invite Hungary, Poland, Czech Republic, all added to NATO over Russia's protests. Now, they were still relatively weak and couldn't really do anything about it. In 2004, we added Estonia, Latvia, Bulgaria, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia. Why are we doing this, by the way? To what advantage is it for us to be doing this? Then in 2014, our CIA illegally overthrew the Ukrainian government, like Hillary Clinton, and then we started threatening adding Ukraine. At this point, Putin puts his foot down and says, that's not going to happen. Now, rather than listen to that, what do? We continue to push for it anyway. Now, remember, this is the only other country that's really our nuclear peer. China is not even close. I mean, Russia is the only country that can basically out-nuke us. Why would we be doing this? It's really insane. I mean, this is the same slope that the great powers got into when we started World War One. This kind of recklessness is what we're dealing with. We're too stupid to be afraid, apparently, but that's what our leadership class is doing. Now, here's the interesting development that just happened that I think really is going to be fascinating. Russia just sent not just a regular hypersonic missile, but they put a hypersonic missile on an intercontinental ballistic missile and fired that into the Ukraine. I think things had a range of over 5,000 miles. Apparently, our Secret Service agencies knew nothing about this. That changes the entire dynamic of everything. Pretty much, now they didn't put a nuclear weapon on it. They put a
Thank
convention.
God.
Thank God they put a conventional weapon on it. But mark my words, that is a red light signal. Like this is not going to happen. So what this means from an implications perspective, Western air defenses are now useless because we don't have anything that can hit something moving that fast. Just don't have it, right? Uh, that also tells us that now our aircraft carriers are at risk. No aircraft carrier can defend itself against a missile coming from that far away that fast. So these fools in the White House have just set us up for being relatively defenseless by continuing to push for something that we're not going to get unless we're willing to put troops on the ground. And I'm pretty much here to guarantee you, I don't think the American people are in the mood to have their boys and girls on the ground, you know, fighting for defense contractor profits. I just don't see it. So anyway, I just thought that was like a really interesting thing to start with, and I'll stop there. I've used up a lot of airtime. Sunny, comments, thoughts, and of course, reading whatever you all have to say about this. Listeners,
Well, I'll tell you, it's thank you so much, Don, for that. Um, I like history, but you are a person who has really studied history far more than I have. So I always learn something from you. I find it very, very informational, and I love how the way that you explain things.
thank you.
And when I saw that Russia had bombed into Ukraine using this supersonic missile, I just went, "Oh no." I'm going to guess it's Putin's red line in the sand. Going, you know what? If you cross that, we can escalate this.
Right?
It,
Yeah.
it, and and I'll tell you, I'm fearful because it's apparent to me that the puppet masters in DC are escalating, and they want to escalate this. And I'm with you. I don't think the American people, we're going, our money doesn't need to go there. Our children don't need to go there. You know, it doesn't need to be happening. But you know what you said, and thank you so much for that. I didn't realize the Western Bloc that you were talking about. I didn't realize why that block of countries was a buffer zone. And so that now I understand that better.
Yeah. When you think about if Ukraine's allowed in NATO, it will take a missile to get from Kiev to Moscow about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, right?
Right,
The exact same reasons why we didn't allow them to put missiles in Cuba, because in Washington, D.C., back then would have been within 30 minutes.
right.
So 15 minutes repair. This is why Israel, look at the position they're in. We're talking 5 minutes for them.
Yeah.
Um, and that's not talking about invading land troops. So to allow Ukraine, they're just not going to do it. They've been invaded twice in the last couple hundred years. Like I said before, Napoleon first and then Hitler a second time around. They're not going to allow that to happen. And it doesn't matter, all our promises mean nothing because clearly, if you look at how Western democracies behave, how long can you trust us? We might have a great person in office, but from their perspective, we don't know what's going to happen in 4 or 8 years. We could have another Biden in 4 to 8 years.
Exactly.
From their perspective, why would you trust that? So
Right. And I read something, I don't know if it's true, but I read that Zelensky was asking us for nukes. And it's like, are you kidding me? Hell no.
yeah,
This cannot go on. And when Biden said, "Oh yeah, you can we're going to ship you some more rockets and missiles and bombs, and you
mhm,
can and also landmines, and you
mhm.
can go ahead and, you know, hit the interior of Russia." I'm like, "What the hell?
Yeah.
This is I it's nothing that I want to see,
So
you
yeah,
know."
So why would we allow a country like, or not even a country, that implies the Ukrainian people, because the Ukrainian people aren't for this. Let's say the Ukrainian government to drag us into their war, a war that they can't win, that they want us to fight for them. And again, going back in history just a little bit, that's how Germany got in World War One. It was Austria-Hungary who wanted to go to war against Serbia to get revenge for the assassination of the Archduke, and so they attacked Serbia without really Germany's permission. Germany allowed themselves to get drug into that by these agreements they'd made, and that's how World War One essentially got started. Now it's not the exact same scenario as this, but human nature being what it is, you can see how that sort of thing would happen. And then you got to look at what are the motivations for this? Who benefits from this? Clearly the defense contractors benefit from it. Um,
Absolutely.
Clearly the American people don't benefit from it. These people in power are the only ones who are lining their pockets from this. The Ukrainian people don't benefit from it. They're the biggest victims. I mean, they're victimizing our pocket, but they're victimizing their lives. And it just blows my mind that these people can be so indecent that they're willing to put the lives of people, 6,000 miles away, not just at risk. These people are getting killed right now for nothing, for a battle that they can't win. And if they did win, they wouldn't be the beneficiaries anyway.
Yes, and we're also the American people are being lied to that they say, well, there are no troops on the ground over there. Baloney. Who do you think is operating the equipment? Because it's not them,
Yeah,
it's us. When
right.
we're sending equipment over, there we're operating it because they don't know how.
Sure.
And I'm certainly not for this. I was worried
Hmm.
seeing the all the arms build up before Russia actually invaded Ukraine. I thought, why the hell aren't they stopping this? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
why
And yeah.
why aren't they stopping it? Well, it's because we don't have we're a leader. That's why. And also, I do believe that the war machine wants it because it is about money. It is about money. So
It's,
but, Zelensky said, or not Zelensky, Putin said, I am willing to talk with Trump.
it's amazing. I think that, and maybe one of the reasons that we haven't seen a nuke or something worse is that he's waiting. He's got to do is wait another couple of months, and he'll have somebody reasonable that he can talk to.
Right,
Uh, because I
right.
think the other side of this is the Biden administration, and whoever the puppeteer, whoever controlling this puppet, are are looking to hang an albatross around Trump's neck before he even gets into office. So they can hang this giant turd on him. So he has to focus on this war rather than focusing on domestic policies and all those other things to move forward. Then that's in their interest. So A, they have a self-interest in terms of making more money off these arms deals. And B, they have a self-interest in trying to make the Trump administration as unsuccessful as possible. So more energy and time is spent up dealing with the war than it is with dealing with the rest of the things that we have going on. Then that's all to their good. And I hate to say it, but I believe that's what we have going on here.
Well, I'm in agreement with you. And, I think, thank God Trump won because had cackling comrade Kamala won, it would be a whole nother, this would just be escalating.
Mhm.
Business as usual. And I think, and so, we have a lot to be thankful for this Thanksgiving.
Sure,
you
sure,
know,
yeah. And
yeah,
and the rest of the world does too. So we can put this
yes,
in this way.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Because it's not just us, it is of the world. And then you have France going, oh, yeah, you can use our missiles too,
Sure.
and going,
Yeah.
oh,
And then you
please,
think of
people.
other implications from this. I'm not sure that Russia has done this, but then, well, why not sell it to some of our other enemies? So why not sell that hypersonic technology to China, or why not to North Korea, or why not to name your enemy in the Middle East? And those people will be a lot more reckless with it than will the Soviet Union, or
Definitely.
Russia. Just gave away my age. Soviet Union, Russia. So, there's a whole lot of strategic implications associated with this, and another reason why it's so important
Yeah.
that we have a grown up person in office shortly.
Yes, thank God, and I'll tell you, speaking of that,
Mhm.
there's just having him elected, things are changing.
Mm.
Just he's not even in office, and things are changing, and he's telling them, hey, look at he made the announcement, I don't know if it was yesterday or day before, hey, we're going to put tariffs on Mexico. You guys don't stop this, and China, we're going to put tariffs if you're not stopping the fentanyl from coming in here, and Mexico, if you are not stopping the illegals from coming. And today,
Mhm.
I was going to save this till the end of our program because it's a
Mhm.
good news story. But today, Mexico's president says migrant caravans will no longer be arriving in the U.S.
Unbelievable.
She
Is it?
sent a letter to Claudia Sheinbaum.
Mhm.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum sent a letter to President elect Trump in response to the tariff threats and says they will not be coming.
Not even in
And
office yet.
it says in the letter, it says, quote, migrant caravans will no longer arrive at the border, end quote.
Mhm. That's awesome.
He's not even in office. I'm going to
Yeah.
post this article. This was I'm quoting from the Epic Times.
Mhm.
And this is peace through strength. This is what we need. And this is what is the American people, this is Trump's mandate.
Mhm.
What the American people voted for was peace through strength.
And I saw a similar thing with Trudeau up in Canada. I can't remember exactly what the response was, but basically stopped the fentanyl on the open border to the north as well, and they're responding the same way. So it's just awesome.
Well, it is awesome. You have Trump is not even in office now. On the other side, now we have all of these cabinet picks are being swatted and bomb threats and stuff like that. And so the terrorists, truthfully, that's what it is, right? You're causing terror. You're threatening, making bomb threats to all of Trump's cabinet members, and they've were been targeting. And this is awful. And this is very coordinated. And I don't have anything to
Mhm.
base it on except my intuition. And I totally think that this is
Mhm.
from the Democrats and their machine that they have, like BLM or Antifa and those, because I was listening to, while I was in the kitchen all day today, I did have a little bit of news this morning. And um, somebody had said, or maybe it was last night, great, somebody had said, and I'm sorry, I can't quote, but it was I was watching Newsmax, and they had said a report from several years ago, not sure of what magazine or who was reporting it, that the DNC, somebody had stated with the DNC that they are able to deploy saboteurs, riots, and other things within just like 2 hours notification.
Mhm.
Fund it and organize it and get it deployed within a couple of hours.
Mhm.
And so I truly believe that this type of attack, I don't think this is coming from another country. I think it's within.
And even if not, they've created an environment where people are comfortable doing this sort of thing. It's just like with the assassination attempt on Trump.
Yeah.
Let's say the crazy kid. Clearly, I think there was some help and support there, but even because you just can't get that close, you can't get in that position and be a 19-year-old know how to do that. So let's just take that off. But even setting that aside, you create an environment where you have a number of people who clearly are mentally deranged. They're in the media. You see them, they're crying, they've lost their minds, their lives are over because this election. Anybody who's doing that sort of thing, you're dealing with mental illness. But they have created an environment where these people feel comfortable behaving and acting on it. When you're telling them for 8 years straight, Hitler, 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 this guy's evil, then the next logical step is evil people have to be like removed. And so that's the environment that they've created on the one hand. And then on the other hand, you have to have people operating within the government who work for the government, who, let's just say, are going to make their best efforts to to catch these people before they act. So my suspicion is we have a lot of that going on as well. So even if it's not directly planned, they're not exactly busting your butts to prevent these things from happening or catch them after the fact. Um, and that's one of the things I think will change once we get an administration and this cabinet in place. We can start removing people who truly aren't going to do the job.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait for the Department of Government Efficiency.
Mhm. Oh, that's just brilliant. That is like one of the most brilliant things ever.
It is.
I mean, it's going to be what they find, I'm sure, is going to be absolutely stunning. I mean,
Mhm.
anyone who's ever been around the Department of Motor Vehicles, for example, now think about that multiplied times how many millions, um, and then hidden someplace where the public can't see it. You see the DMV. Think about all these departments where you never go into, you never see them. The ones who are just within the beltway.
Yeah.
It's got to be surreal the amount of waste. Um,
Yes, and of late, Elon and Vivek have been talking about our government buildings that are empty. We're maintaining them, heating them, cooling them, and whatnot, and there's nobody there.
yeah.
And so, these they're saying, hey, you know what? We're gonna implement a 5-day work week. Got to come into the office because why do we have these buildings if nobody's in there, and get things back up and running in that. Anyway, I do look forward to the Department of Government Efficiency, and especially, these are successful businessmen. Look at what Elon did. He got Twitter and he slashed it by, I don't know, 80% of the workforce. And
Performance
and
got better.
it got better and running more efficiently. There's going to be some hiccups in the beginning, but it can happen. It can absolutely happen.
Mhm.
Can we segue in a little into Oregon?
Let's do that.
Okay, so we've talked many times here on the program about Oregon and voting and the DMV issue, and I'll tell you, I always said the number was going to be higher. And so today it came out. This is an article that is from the Taxpayer Association of Oregon, Oregon Watchdog, that there are 54,600 voters that are registered voters that are verified, not citizens. And this is awful. And I still think the number is going to end up higher. And it's actually coming from an article from the Federalist.
Mhm.
And I'm going to paste the link here from Oregon Watchdog. But this report from the Federalist shows that DMV passed along these voters without verifying their citizenship. The people, we do what's called self-verify. You check the box. You are verifying. You're actually swearing because it says on there that you are attesting that you're telling the truth.
Mhm.
You check a box and it says you're a citizen. And so these voters are individuals who have not proven citizenship. And so so now DMV has sent these, and these are people that voted.
Mhm.
And I think there's apparently, I think the number is going to still climb higher
Mhm.
of how many people, when they really get into the nuts and bolts even more, that it's going to be higher of the people that are uh, not verified citizens on the voter rolls. And through DMV, and we also now we have, they're blaming the DMV on all of this, but this year the Oregon Health Authority was allowed to registered voters.
Mhm.
And the more hands in the cookie jar, the more problems that you have. Instead of just letting county elections handle it, the state elections handle it. But motor voter got passed, and so something needs to change with that. And I think, thankfully, through lawsuits such as Judicial Watch is bringing, and bringing the awareness that we're counting ballots, receiving ballots and counting ballots beyond election day. Counting ballots is one thing, but receiving them belong beyond election day isn't. So I think that number is going to get larger.
And then you think about 54,000 votes in the state the size of Oregon. That, we're not talking about, California. That's a huge amount.
It is. And while Oregon, I'm quoting this article still, the very last paragraph, it says, while Oregon is burning in this evolving election scandal, 8 states voted to ban non citizen voting in the recent November election. And that was Idaho, Iowa, Kentucky, Missouri, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Wisconsin. They
It's
all passed it this November that you must be a citizen in order to vote. So,
let's see. I thought you had to be a citizen to not vote to vote anyway. I mean, we haven't had.
well, it's a federal law. So
Okay.
this is the deal. It's federal law to
Hmm.
vote in federal elections. You must be a citizen.
Hmm. But it's
And
not. But it's not state law.
no, no. And so now the states, eight states just passed. There's other states as well, but those are 8 that just passed it and going, yes, we in our elections, it
Hmm.
is not going to allow non-citizens to vote. And so, yeah, Oregon, if you're not a citizen, you're allowed to vote in state and local elections, but you shouldn't be allowed to vote, period.
Right. Well, it's just
You
like
know?
this is a big oversight on our forefathers. Probably they didn't anticipate that we would be this crazy, or we'd be infiltrated by traitors, which is essentially what this is.
Well, I do believe in states' rights, okay?
Hmm.
But federal elections, that must be guaranteed that
Hmm.
no non-US citizen is voting in federal elections.
No,
And um,
I mean for states as well. I mean, I just
yeah, I agree with you, but I think the states have to pass it.
yeah. Well,
That's my point
you're,
of the
you're
states' rights.
you're clearly right. You're clearly correct. I did not know that.
Yeah. So the governor has called for a special session in December, governor of Oregon, to deal with wildfire funding. Here we are coming to the end of the year, and they don't they have costs upwards of $350 million, and because of all the wildfires this year, and so she's calling for a special session, and she's asking the legislature to release $218 million to the Oregon Department of Forestry and the Oregon Department of the State Fire Marshal to address the costs for this year's firefighting. And they have not been able to pay their bills for 5 months. Imagine that.
Wow. Wow.
5 months. And this just goes, let's see. When we had COVID, Oregon could not get you a unemployment check, some people for 6 months. This is just another an agency. This is just another screw up of the government of Oregon. And so here now in December, they're going to have a special emergency session to get some bills paid. Well, I do believe the bills need to be paid. There are private contractors. They have contracts with the fire, the ODF and W or whatnot, or whatever agency it is that handles that, and they need to be paid for their services. A contract is a contract,
Mhm.
and this year's wildfire season destroyed 42 homes and another 132 structures. It's bad. It's and the House Minority Leader, Christine Drazen, former candidate for governor, she's now been elected the House leader, and she says that she's they actually it was a bipartisan group that asked the governor to call for a session to get the wildfire season contractors paid for their services, and yet the governor never contacted the legislatures. The governor just chose to make a press release.
I've
No.
often wondered if part of the problem is the government for Oregon is governed on the western side of the state, and these fires are happening in places that aren't in their backyard, so they just don't feel it directly. And then the other thing, and I saw Maurice's comment, that's a good one with regard to good forest management would eliminate the need to ask for money. I was just thinking the same thing in my own mind. It's like, why are we
Yes.
having all these fires? And what could be done? I'm sure it's pure mismanagement because I'm sure there's forest management techniques that would prevent this from happening that for probably some stupid reason we're not doing, which you could probably shed light on this. Um,
Well, exactly. And talk about managers. Another top Oregon Department of Forestry manager is being investigated for workplace conduct. Actually, that is the latest accusation emerged on Monday in response to a records request by the Oregonian. And the request stemmed from findings in a separate investigation into Wilson's boss, because first Mike Wilson was investigated. That was an investigation that was a complaint filed by a female subordinate earlier in the year. And so there's office hanky panky going around instead of managing the forests, you could say. You
well, they're,
know,
they're putting out the wrong fires.
right? Right? You can't make this stuff up, but this is just how kind of screwed up, Oregon is, and they're not taking their job seriously. But also at the same time, I will add, this is what happens when you get DEI hires instead of merit-based hiring.
Yeah, no, and I almost believe that. Well, I do believe anything you could privatize, you should privatize. Eliminate the number of government employees doing this. You have a competition for private contractors to manage this stuff. Give a contracts to two or three of them and let them do it. And the best ones get renewed every year or in every few years. Just have another competition, and then measure the results. That's how you
Yeah.
would fix this, because there's no incentive, as you know, from government employees. There's no incentive for doing well. There's no penalty for doing bad. So you get this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, I don't have an article about this, but I want to speak to it just a minute because it's affecting every senior citizen that lives in Umatilla County and other counties, other rural counties here in Oregon, that if they have a advantage type plan that goes along as a supplement to their Medicare and that type of thing, all of those plans are getting dropped, Don, and they are forced to find other type of insurances, go back into Medicare, and having it's called a supplemental, but it's a different type. All these advantage plans they're stopping it. It's like, who what I'm seeing, trying to help my mom work through all of this, is that Oregon wants to force the senior citizens onto the Oregon Health Plan.
Oh, sure. Right. They're trying to
What
do
do you
single.
mean, sure?
Yes. Well, yeah. Well, it ain't. I don't mean that in a good way. I don't mean that. Single payer. Oregon's the left in Oregon is pushing for single payer forever for the state
Yes.
of Oregon. And you know what they do in Oregon is they have that list, and if you fall off the list, you just might have to be helped out of here by your friendly neighborhood doctor with a little hemlock. Um,
Well, that's it, so we've been dealing with this for a little bit now, and the deadline for some is like December 7th. Others, it's December 30th.
mhm.
And so, but one doctor goes, "Don't worry, she'll be on Medicare, back on Medicare, and whatever supplement she has, we'll take it." Well, We were looking at one and
Mhm.
called up the doctor's office, and they go, "Oh, no, we don't take that one."
Yeah.
So I go, "Wait a minute, that's a supplement."
Mhm.
Or whatever. There's, you have to know the terms.
Mhm.
And they're going, "Yeah, well, we should take that, but no, we're not going to be taking that one." And why do they screw with our senior citizens?
Mhm. because they're no longer productive citizens. This is how all communists think. The people
Yes.
they want to eliminate are the people at the beginning of life who can't make money for them, and they want the people at the end of life who are no longer productive in the sense that they're doing things for them. It's classic, and it plays out in their belief systems. The utilitarianism is basically what's called, to put it in economics terms. You are of no value once you get past age 65 and or are no longer working,
Yeah.
and you begin to cost the system more. And this is why they're so comfortable killing young people. Babies first, because babies can't make any money until you get to be about 12 or so under the old communist system. Then they're okay with you unless you get sick or you have a mental issue or you have health issues, in which case they're happy to help you out of the planet with a little hemlock as well. Um,
Right. And
that's
so,
it's a
it
heartless
is.
system.
We were having a discussion, the three of us, about this, and it is. I said, because my husband was going, "Well, it's no big deal." I go, "But Charlie, if we move 2 counties over, there wouldn't be an issue." He said, "What?" I said, "Yes, that's it. It's not statewide. It is the rural counties, and we're one of the more populous counties in on the east side here. Umatilla County is, compared to some of the other counties, and so it's several counties that this is affecting. So I wanted to bring that to our viewers' attention, but where's the legislators in this? Where are those that are supposed to be working for the senior citizens? We get a lot of lip service, but where's the action on that? It's
Because they
interesting.
are the enemy.
God, right? So I didn't have an article on that, but it's just something that I'm helping my mom go through. Hey, so that we have things are so bad in Portland. Southwest Portland business owners are now turning to private security after
Wow.
break-ins. That's bad.
Yeah. Now, you know what that's reminiscent of? You think about third world countries where the police forces and the military forces are
Yeah.
so bad that private citizens have to hire their own guards. You think about a country like South Africa, where you literally have to have a safe room in your house to protect yourself against criminals because the police are of no use. You think about countries like Colombia, where any kind of decent neighborhoods have walls with broken glass on the top of the walls, and then guards walking around that the private citizens pay for to protect themselves because the police forces are of no use. That's that's where Portland's headed. I mean, they're not there yet, obviously, but this is the slope they're on.
Well, I experienced that when I was in Venezuela in, I want to say 96, 97. And I was very shocked. We were to go around town in Puerto La Cruz, and to go around there, and every business had an armed guard in front of it. The donut shop, the barber shop, and I was like, wow. And this was right before the fall to communism.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, maybe they had a defund the police movement before that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but it's a beautiful country and the people are
Mm-hmm.
quite nice, but it did shock me. So now in Southwest Portland, business owners are turning to private security.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to bring up St. Helens. We've talked about this before. Their education, they're having problems because students have been, there's been sexual it's sexual harassers, sexually abused children in the St. Helens school district. Well, I'm happy to report that the St. Helens High School principal has been indicted on felony criminal mistreatment charges. And so the principal, as well as the, I want to say the superintendent, has also been put on leave for an investigation. And it has to do with a couple of teachers that have been arrested for sexually abusing students. And the management, be it the principal and um, the administration, not taking care of the kids. It's just egregious, So they've both, the superintendent, Wagner, and the superintendent were placed on administrative leave on
Mhm.
November 15th, but now here she has been arrested,
Mhm.
or she's been indicted anyway.
Well, it's a real sad commentary. We've seen this sort of thing. It's not obviously isolated to there. It's going on all across the
Yeah.
country. And I'm pretty convinced that what's happened is the leadership class from Cal Berkeley back in the 60s has now reached a point where they're generating people who do these kinds of things, and they seek positions where they have access to kids.
Yeah.
And what better place to have access to kids than the public school system? They're separated from their parents all day long, and they can teach them all kinds of crazy stuff, which we all know about. And on top of that, we see this increase, and it's not your imagination in terms of the amount of sexual issues that are arising between adults and minors. I think people would do well to really look at alternatives to the public school system, and/or doing everything you can to give competition to that system. And the voucher system is one certain way to do it. But if you have children or grandchildren in that system, I think you really got to look at private or homeschool or something else, because you got to save your kid from them now. You can't wait for all of these things to get into place. And hopefully, Trump's elimination of the Department of Education would be a great step in the first direction, in the right direction.
Absolutely. And school choice, the money follow the student. This is it is putting it back to the states. Again, it'll be state rights, and
Mhm,
some states will do it well and other states won't. But it
mhm,
is competition. And I Jeff Reynolds, one of the fellows who started Captive Audience, our own very own Jeff Reynolds, he moved his during COVID, moved his family to Florida because he saw what was happening with his children. And he
mhm,
said, this is not acceptable. And I remember speaking with Jeff, and he said, oh, it took him about 3 weeks to a month to get back to normal. We had no idea. It's like the frog in the water when you turn the heat up slowly, right? You just don't,
mhm,
it's what you're accepting instead of going, oh my gosh, look at that. But when
mhm,
you go to a free state, then you see, wow, you know what? We don't have the issues here. And you
mhm,
just realize how oppressive it is here. And again look forward to the Department of Government Efficiency and the
mhm.
changes that are going to be implemented once we get Trump and all of his administration in.
Well, I'll tell you one other thing too, and this your comment about Jeff made me think about. I call it the competition. It's not just competition amongst organizations. In this case, we're talking about private school, homeschool, public school. But it's also
Mhm.
competition between the states, which is one of the beauties of what the founders set into place. So if Arizona's doing something great and Oregon's doing something stupid, the population of Arizona will go up and the population of Oregon will go down. And that's
Yeah.
precisely what you're seeing right now. Portland's
Yes.
been losing population. California's been losing population massively. They lose enough, they're going to have to either change their behavior in order to compete with other states, or they're going to collapse, or otherwise feel the agony of what they're doing. So that's the beauty of this system. And states like Arizona, Texas, Florida, those have all been gaining. And the states that have been losing have been the New Yorks and the Californias and the Oregons and the Washingtons of the world. Um, Unfortunately, here's the downside of that. They attract the worst from those states. so the
That's
people.
actually was going to be what I was going to say, because those people that are actually moving into Oregon are
Mhm.
not necessarily the what you want,
Yeah, and I.
because of the services.
Uh,
Let's see, free drugs, and
so that's true, but at the lower end of the scale. That's true, but it's also true at the upper end of the scale. So at the ideological level, because I used to recruit and I used to talk to these people, people with these hard left views will move states like from states like Texas to move to a place where they can be more comfortable, which would be a place like Oregon. So move from someplace like, I'm just making this up, like say Houston,
Right.
and they'll move to Portland. So there is a component, but they will cause it to spiral. At some point, it's just going to lose population because it can't survive. And you see that the crime in Portland being what it is, for example, the cost of housing, people can't tolerate it anymore, so they start fleeing, whether it be to the suburbs or to another state, and that's what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what's happening at your house tomorrow, Don? Are you having Thanksgiving at your house or are you going somewhere?
So we're having Thanksgiving here, which is nice, which means the nice part is we don't have to go anywhere. The bad part is we get all the cleanup. but but that's great. So we're just going to have it. Really, is going to be two Thanksgivings for sure. Because you know what happens is you get kids with in-laws, and you got to not migrate all that. So not everyone can be here at the same time all together. So Thursday and Friday are major Thanksgiving days, and probably Saturday also, where you're eating leftovers. And Saturday's probably the day when everybody can be here. So it's basically a 3-day party is what's
All
happening here. So,
right.
yeah, so it's gonna be pretty nice. Really looking forward to it. How about yourself? Are you staying home?
We're staying home like I started off with. I've been in the kitchen all day today, making some preparations and then tomorrow, yeah. So we're going to be here, and we have some family coming over. One of my brothers, his wife, and a nephew are coming, and yeah, it's going to be nice.
Yeah, make great memories. That's what it's all about.
It is, and even though you've got to do it while you can, for
Mhm.
sure, and so I wish everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving. Enjoy it with whomever you're with, and family, friends, and just thanks for being with us tonight, the day before Thanksgiving. We appreciate our audience very, very much. And I am taking Friday off. I'm not going to do captive audience on Friday. I'm gonna take a little holiday. I will say, if you happen to be in Milton Free Water, our campaign office is going to be open on Friday and Saturday, and we've got lots of stocking stuffers down there, for Christmas shopping. So that's our office, our Umatilla County Republican Party's office. That'll be fun,
That
I
sounds
think.
yeah. Well, same here. I really appreciate the audience. You all are absolutely wonderful. Have a fantastic Thanksgiving. Never get tired of winning.
Never.
Yep. And